First step, get all your weld nuts tacked in here. Next step is what I'm going to do. Let's get the weld nuts attached inside here. Got my little weld nuts here placed along the length. I'm going to go ahead and tack those together. As you can tell, I'm missing 3 of them here, but I can go ahead and weld that in later at a later date because I got the access panel. So, 1/4 inch weld nuts got on here. Just put a nice fat weld, that's all you need, it's just 1/4 inch. Alright, now it's time to put the projection studs on here. I just tossed the weld nut on the other side just to make sure it's nice and tight. Got a batch there and a batch. Alright, all the hardware has been tacked now. Now I just got to go in and do my full weld procedure. And when I mean full weld, like I said, just a little bit. You don't want to do too much heat. Like I said, this is all holding access panels, so you don't need to be super critical here. Alright, pretty much got full welds here on, well, full welds on the weld nuts here. Weld studs, same deal. I'm not going to do a full weld because it'll warp too much. It'll just be bonded later with some epoxy to keep the oil out at a later time, once it's all fully welded together. The tubing is in here. Kind of see the interior framing. Just kind of keeps it from pulling too much. Tack welded the tensioner mounts, as you can tell here. I'll do a full weld after we box everything together, like I said, to minimize distortion. Alright, so the outer panel, I pretty much just set 2 3/4 inch tubes, exactly preset with the bends here on my chassis outer plate. And then what I did is I got this jig plate right here, which is a piece of 3/16 steel bent as a channel. And then you got all these nuts that kind of hold it down on where the studs are welded on here, so pulls it nice and tight and flat. So what we're going to do now is place the inside cover on top of the outside cover. Alright, with the inside cover resting on the outside cover, pretty much just tack welded each side, so that's pretty much squared up with this square tube in here. Now, one thing I'll probably do in the future is I'll probably slot and tab this, because of course I won't have that skeleton anymore to align things. All I did was just pretty much clamp it down so it wouldn't move. And then I just use this 2x4 to push up against it, make sure everything's nice and square. So the next step is to put the end caps here on the plate. What I did is I ran it 1 3/8 back here, and one thing I'm noticing is there's quite a bit of a ledge here, a little bit more than called the spec. I have a feeling if you come over to this one too, as you can tell, well, let's see if you can see this or not, but I'm a little bit too tight here, so I'm going to have to take a little bit of material off of that one. I think in the future what I'll probably do is leave a little bit more clearance on this, especially once I run to a thicker sheet. That'll help out a lot. Alright, with the case still bolted down, I just did a full weld on the bottom here. I didn't terminate or anything. And of course this guy's all fully welded too, making sure to crisscross back stitch pattern it so it doesn't distort in one way or the other. Same thing goes for the other side on the other end cap. Pretty much tack welded it and then fully welded the bottom there. Now what I'm going to do is just loosen the bolts from underneath and remove it off the jig so I can do in position. End caps fully welded, one thing I noticed is I completely fucked up the position of my tensioner mounts. So I'm going to cut these off and re-weld them. Thankfully I only tack welded them, but in the future I'll definitely put etch lines on this panel right here so that no mistaking where they go. So I got the weld bungs, gonna add the weld bung here, and then I'm gonna add the drain bung which goes down through there. Last up, got a pretty much full weld these weld nuts on these mounting tabs here, and then these guys pretty much get welded like that. Right, to set my mounts here, what I got is pretty much a jig plate here. You just bolt it up and tack them on and then do a full weld. Excuse me, the only time you have to do a full weld is down here and down here. The rest can just be stitched because it doesn't have to be watertight. Got the mounts on right now. As you can tell from down here, she's fully welded on the bottom. So this is going to be the part that's going to have to be watertight. But up here, you can just stitch it. No need to go overboard with weld. Same goes for the other side over here. So that pretty much concludes the left-hand chain case, completing both of them. And then we'll be on to probably doing some machine weldments.